Welcome to the clubhouse. I'm Don Swenson. I'm here with
Sam Seitels. That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Oh man, we had such a great conversation with Chris Rockwell. He is a spoken word artist and the curator and creator of Soup Can Magazine, a quarterly magazine dedicated to poetry and the arts.
You know, you told me in the past that he's a good dude, and this solidified it. And not only is he a good dude, I'd go as far as saying maybe a great dude.
I think he's a great dude. He's quickly becoming one of my closest friends, and he is someone that I admire greatly for all of the work that he does with the community and beyond, trying to create change locally and throughout the state.
Yeah, you're going to find out all about that. We laughed, we almost cried, but we definitely had an amazing time. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, Chris Rockwell. Don, we did it again. Episode 3.
Yes, episode 3.
We've made it all the way here, brother.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Well, you were coming in earlier saying that you feel like this is almost addictive.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is the first time I've had a chance to kind of sit down and we were on Pillars Art Club when Art Club first started.
My old show, right?
Yeah, and this is the first time I've been back on mic, talking to people.
3 episodes in, starting to get the flow.
Yeah, I'm still very quiet and
making me lift all the bags.
I know I'm mostly like a listener, and I know that doesn't make for great podcasts. Just me nodding on the mic.
Well, luckily we don't have a quiet dude in here today, at least from what I have seen. Chris, before I have Don introduce you, and before we get you a blabbering about, I have to show you something. It's super coincidental that you are here with us today, because I did something this weekend, and then today I was thinking, who am I going to share this awesome experience with? I can't think of anyone who's going to give a crap. And then I remembered, wait, Chris is coming to the podcast. He is totally going to appreciate this.
Well, I'm here.
Well, here you go.
The rest is to be determined.
Since none of you guys asked me if I was injured by my wrapped up arm over here.
I just thought it was like a tattoo or something like
I knew that it wasn't a tattattoo because that's not how you wrap tattoos.
I don't know anything about it.
Well, I don't know how to wrap anything, so that is how I wrapped a tattoo.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And luckily, my son had some extra wrappage, and check out what I got over the weekend.
You did get it! Yay!
Let's go.
Okay.
You don't know what we're doing
Basquiat crown there.
Yo.
Jean-Michel Basquiat crown, my man.
Oh, man, you were just talking about
for
it
you.
last Monday.
I
That's
did
awesome.
it. And Chris is like one of the few dudes I met where he was just like, Basquiat, Basquiat.
Yeah.
So I was
That's
like, this
cool.
is perfect.
That's real cool.
I think when I met you, it was right after I actually sat down and watched that whole movie, which is amazing.
I still haven't watched it.
Dude, I've been begging the art club. Can you tell him?
Bro, okay, so we're talking about if you need no other selling point, you need to know that David Bowie plays Andy Warhol.
I know that.
And
I know
what
that.
else do we need?
Enough said.
And then Benicio del Toro and
he plays like a mix of characters. Like he plays a bunch of friends of Jean-Michel Basquiat, all wrapped into one.
Wright.
Jeffrey Wright plays Basquiat,
Wright.
and he plays him to a T.
Right.
So there's one scene that lives in my head rent free from Basquiat, and it's when they're at the basketball court. There's this scene when he's like, Basquiat says to his buddy Benny, he's like, "Hey Benny, how long do you think it takes to get famous?" He's like, "What do you mean, like a celebrity?" He's like, "Just just famous, man." He's like, 3-4 years, 6 to get rich, and then he explains to him, like, this is how you become famous. And they're just playing basketball, and it's like the best scene because besides the fact that he's explaining all this mind-blowing shit, they're playing basketball, and Benny is awesome at basketball, and Basquiat sucks. So he's just bricking everything. He's not draining any shots. And do you remember the part where he's like, play some D? He's like trying he says like yelling at him, he doesn't play D. He's like,
clearly
play some
not
D.
an athlete or even really into it.
Yeah, but he's making him play. And he's like, he does this whole like tirade about like, first you gotta, do something really good, but you got to do it over and over and over again so that people get used to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to make friends with famous people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you got to wear nice famous clothes.
Then you have to keep. You have to keep.
Even if he's like, you got to keep doing this shit that made you famous, even after it gets boring to you, because they're not going to get tired of it, even if you do.
Dude, I'm so blown away by how much of the scene you remembered. I've watched this movie 500 times, and will you watch the movie now? Gosh dang it, Don.
I don't even want to record the rest of this podcast.
Yeah,
go watch
All
Basquiat.
right, well, you guys finish talking. I'm going to go outside and watch it.
I'll give you credit, though. You just you really were into it when we were explaining that just now, and you didn't have to be.
I was into it.
No, I'm really into it. I just don't care for art. It's
who cares about it?
Yeah, who cares?
Dom,
no, I really.
You know what's so funny that you said that, because there's so many people who own just priceless works of art that don't give a shit about
That's
art.
true. That is true.
They don't care about art. It's an investment to them. It's a commodity. It's something that's going to appreciate in value. That's it.
For sure.
Do a lot of rich people do that as an investment?
Dude, they don't even display them a lot of the time. They have them in
Yeah.
storage and security. It's not even displayed. You can't even see it. I know. I've heard that someone, I don't remember who it was, someone famous owns a Rothko that no one sees. It's just in storage and security in climate controlled storage that's to keep it safe. It's a Rothko.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's just commodifiable, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy the art.
No, it's a real shame. I mean, that's why I love places in like the Barnes Foundation in Philly, and actually Philly in general, with the whole Pico free museum Sundays, like the first Sunday of every month. Like, it's so great to open up and be able to just go and look at art for free without any strings attached. And there's events going on during the day, and there's free music, and it's always when they're always switching out exhibits, and you can go see those new exhibits then too. I mean, that's how we got my daughter to start appreciating works of art. Like, she's able to identify what a Modigliani looks like, and she understands the difference between Monet and Manet, and she's 7. So it's it's from going to here and being able to take her to these places where she can get up close and personal to works of art and check it. So it's really pretty astonishing.
Well, that's good on you too, because as a parent, you're doing that. You're making sure the next generation.
I think you've kind of done that with all your kids, right? They all seem pretty
Yeah, I mean, everybody's into art in their own special way. My son Rob is really good with 3-dimensional stuff, and my son Jack is talented.
Jack's awesome,
2D
dude.
artist. Yeah.
That kid's awesome.
Yeah,
it's so funny because just now you were we're in episode 3, and I'm like, Revenge of the Sith.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
That's today, right? Is today the?
No, it was Saturday.
Phantom Menace is out.
Well, it was in
it
theater
started.
at Tilton Square.
Yeah. Well,
No, but it's because I brought that up because Jack painted. He painted Star Wars characters for the art festival the other day.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just did this last night. I'm like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like
They were immaculate. And
Jaden
he's
was
like, I
really
just
into
threw
them,
this
too.
together last night.
he he comes up to me. He's like, I painted this bird, and it's this beautiful photorealistic bird.
Yeah,
It's like, I had a few minutes together to throw this bird together.
I don't like that kid.
Yeah.
You got to talk to him.
They're all great. All my kids are great.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. How'd you do that?
How'd I do that? I just stopped parenting and just worked all the time.
Let them raise themselves.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
The internet probably.
The big kid's watching the little one.
Yeah.
No, you just
Well, you guys you got to do
list-
stuff like that.
you listen to them. You try and teach them, stuff.
I love that the first thing you said is you listen to him.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
Well, you got to figure out what they like, right? You can't just impose the things that you like on them. I mean, if they gravitate to things like my older kids like Dungeons and Dragons, and I like Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger, and my daughter loves to watch movies and stuff, and she's really Her first movie, we went to go see Wonder Woman in the theaters, and she watched the whole.
That was her first movie.
Her first movie.
Yeah, that's
It's a
iconic.
heck of a- yeah.
That's a money
It's a
move
heck of a
right
way to
there.
start.
She paid
Hell yeah.
attention to it the whole time. Like
How old was
usually
she?
2.5.
Get out of
She
here.
watched the whole thing.
She was
I think
in
it
3
like
years
2.
old.
No, I don't think she was 3 yet. I don't know. I'd have to do the math. I'd have to take a look at when that was released. But yeah, no, it's but it's you listen to them because they'll tell you what they like, what they're gravitating to, and you try and find an appreciation for that.
Yeah, and if you don't listen to them and just make them listen to you, they won't.
No, they won't.
They definitely. I mean, I didn't listen to my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually a really interesting point too, because when I was younger, I definitely didn't want to hear shit from anybody, but it was really tough because my old man had lived so many lives before he became a dad. You know,
How old was he?
Well, it's not even about that. I mean, I think he was in his late 20s. I think he was 27.
Okay.
But it's not even about that. He was like, he grew up in Brooklyn in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and that was just like, it's New York in the 60s was just wild, you know, Brooklyn, the Bronx, all that. And then he started working in the New York City Transit Authority on the trains at the height of the graffiti movement in the boroughs. So he had all kinds of like shit that he saw and then, you know, his experiences and stuff like that. So like I was into art, but also I had him telling me all kinds of stories and show me pictures of the things he saw on the trains and like what was going on. Like he saw like hip hop unfolding
That's
like
so cool.
in his periphery. He didn't really care about it, but he knew what was happening. You know, it was kind of like that. And like, well, no wonder
Yeah.
I turned out this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rocking a Beastie Boys shirt. Just want to
All
let you
right.
all know that.
Yeah, and he was like, he would bring home just boxes of whatever supplies they were throwing away from the TA.
Sure.
So I was like, here's a bunch of notepads.
Yeah.
And it was like, there would be forms. Then they like, well, we don't use this form anymore. We redesigned the form, so throw all these out. So he'd bring me home form, but he's like, the back is blank. Draw on that. You know, and that's how I had, because we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing
Yeah.
up, but I had art supplies because he kept bringing me all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll just... So many of my original comics were on the back of New York City Transit Authority forms.
That's crazy. Do you still have some of those?
I mean, I bet you my mom does.
You gotta show me some of those sometime.
Were you living
That's
in
amazing.
Brooklyn?
No, well, when I was very young, we moved to Brick. We moved it down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't want to raise me and my brother up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to raise us down here.
Yeah, I think about like I kind of had a similar experience because my dad was a custodian in a school district on Long Island, and like end of the summer, like they were just tossing stuff. So he brought me like little science books home and like reams of like dot matrix printer paper, and I just draw on that.
Well, yeah, that's what it would be like. You have like just whatever is there, but it was like it made me. You know what it did? It was like I just realized I could just create art with anything.
Yeah,
because I had to.
right,
Because if I wanted to do it, it was just here's what you got. You don't like it, then tough shit.
right.
You know, and I was like, all right, and I just figured it out. You know, and you know what else? There's this. You know Paul Madonna. He's an illustrator, a cartoonist, and a graphic artist.
What's he done?
He had a very famous, at least in California. He was in the San Francisco Chronicle. All Over Coffee was his comic strip.
Okay.
But he has books, and one of his books was like he has a story about how he only the top 3 complaints that any artist has why they don't create is time, money, and space.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, well, here's what I figured out I'm going to do. They all had, everyone he knew had all these reasons why they weren't making art, why they were artists, but they weren't making art. And he's like, well, I committed to being able to create art with whatever I fit in a backpack. So that's always affordable.
Mm-hmm.
It's always takes up less space, and it could always go with me wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
So he eliminated all 3 of those constraints.
Sure.
And that's how he achieved what he did with art. And I think about that all the time because I'm like, well, what can I do where I am with what I have right now?
Mm-hmm.
and just create whatever I can. That's why I'm so like multidisciplinary. I'm like multi-potentialite. I don't think I ever have like the most I can achieve in any one thing.
Yeah.
But I've done a whole bunch of shit with all kinds of like different dimensions and directions and stuff. So I feel like that's okay with me. I have peace with that, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I've only seen you a handful of times, but every time I see you, it seems like you're doing something different. Like, what is your favorite form of art? I know you do the spoken word stuff, and I know you have a magazine, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have one that is your number one, or
Bro,
do you just?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. You know how much easier my life would be if I just could pick it. That's it, and then just everything else would just become like down the list of priorities. I wish.
Yeah, you look like you're doing a lot.
I do too much. I admittedly do too much, and it's because of that I don't think I'm ever doing anything to the best that I can do it. But I allow myself my phases, and when I'm in the mood to paint, I just paint, and I'll just make like 20 paintings in a month or something like that, you know. And then when I'm in the mood to work on music, I'll just start writing rhymes. I'll just start, you know, making beats. I'll just crank out a bunch of stuff, and then I'll go to poetry, and I kind of shift. The one thing that so Soup Can Magazine, I curate and edit.
Did you create it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I started it in 2021. It was myself and my partner Amanda.
So right in the heart of COVID, you guys started it.
Well, you know what happened is that this is gonna be a tangent, but we had like I was doing art shows and poetry shows, and we just couldn't do it. I was watching them one by one fall off the calendar, like canceled. Who knew when they were gonna pick back up again? So I was like, well, a bunch of us started just sending each other shit in the mail because, well, it was, you know, like, well, we can mail each other stuff. Let's, you know, we can't. It couldn't just be. I mean, I don't know. Most of the artists I know, you can't just be on a device all the time. There needs to be some sort of like something ritualistic or ceremonious and tangible about what you're doing. You know, so you can connect to it. I think. So we just started mailing each other letters and stuff like that, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just make the art show and the poetry show in a magazine, and I'll just mail it out to everybody.
You just knew how to make a magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, but it's zines. It's DIY culture. It's just like, and plus it's so easy. Like, you can go on any number of websites, and there's like just templates, click and drag. You could just figure it out. And I already was like thinking about it for years and never actually pulled it off. So I was like, well, now I have uninterrupted time because I have to sit on my ass right now. That's what I'm required to do, stay home. So I was doing that, and Amanda helps me stay organized, which I'm naturally not. So then we just put out a magazine, and then when everything opened up, we could start doing events again. It just caught on by that point.
Sure.
It got like, it immediately like took off.
My friend just messaged me. Oh my gosh, he makes the African art. Quentin, I think he's being featured, right?
Yeah.
Quentin's being featured in that magazine. He's
His
really
story is
stoked about
unbelievable.
it.
Yeah.
So I interviewed him. One of the coolest podcasts I've ever done.
Yeah.
Bro, good for you, because that dude, like, he loves to tell his story.
Sure.
You know, like, there's a lot of people who I'm sure you know, Don. Like, a lot of artists aren't outgoing salesmen like that. They don't want to be out there. They want to just make their art, and then just someone else, you deal with it. You know, like, he's not like that. He'll be very personable, and after everything he you know what it is. He is probably his feature in this current issue. He's probably the most journalistic I've been when doing a feature. I usually do just it's art and a blurb. But with him, I did like a whole interview. He was sending me all these voice messages.
Yeah.
So I was like transcribing a lot of what he said, and he gave me so many just pearls, just quotes, you know, that I was like, whoa, this dude, I can't believe he said that, you know.
Did he talk about his time in the military?
Dude, he talked everything's in there.
Yeah.
Everything. From his in recovery from substance abuse to
the explosion,
college, to the fire and everything. Everything is in there. And I was like, and a lot of people submit and they're like, you know, feature me, and I'm like, I would love to do that. I will feature people. I'll put your art in there, but like, what's your story? You know, what did you do? There are a lot of people who just make good-looking paintings, but what does it mean to you? What is it like? What did you lay on the line for that to exist? You know, like what is in the wake of this painting that's behind you? Like that's the story. So they're not all compelling stories, and that's okay. Art is for everyone, but I only have between 44 and 52 pages an issue. So you want to get in there, your story has to be like, I have to curate it, you know? It has to be something people are going to continuously want to read.
Do you think that's why so many people do gravitate towards Jean-Michel Basquiat, is just because they're fascinated by who he was and his story?
I can tell you this. Basquiat in 2024 is part Nirvana t-shirt and part a Nirvana album. So, like, there are teenage kids who wear Nirvana shirts thinking it's a clothing brand.
Right.
They don't know that it's a band. But then there's people who are a little bit older who go, that band changed my fucking life. That band changed the game. You know, that band ushered in a movement and brought everybody with them. You know, like, there's two Basquiats.
I didn't realize Basquiat has fallen into that.
Oh yeah, there's for sure. There's Basquiat shoes.
Yeah, I mean,
then
like sometimes like people have sort of taken ownership of that crown image and have added it into part of their sort of persona too, which is like, you know, it's flattering on one hand, and on the other thing, it's a little bit of appropriation. Yeah. You know, that I'm not saying anything against your particular tattoo.
Well, I mean, I'm a true
like,
fan.
But it's like,
well, that's homage, straight
up. Yeah, that's love right there on your arm, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it ain't to be like, look, I'm a Basquiat fan.
You know why?
No,
you know why? Because you don't
fan.
have anything other than that on there. So the only people who are going to recognize that are the ones who know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been talking about Basquiat since the first day that I met you.
At 17,
just outside
changed
this
my
room.
life.
You know, like, but you see the same thing with like the Keith Haring stuff. You know,
yeah.
Like, you know, it's just it's all like Andy Warhol. Like, it has like how many soup cans do you see, or how many times are you going to get that sort of pop art thing? That's I don't know. It's commercialized, you know, it's homogenized.
Well, side note, Andy Warhol did that to himself on purpose.
I was going to say, didn't he want that kind of?
But for sure.
It was like, what you're saying is not the people who get the joke.
Right.
It's the people who are the joke's on them and they don't get it.
Correct.
That's the difference. And also, another sidebar is that crown, that Basquiat crown, he earned that because he was a street artist first. He was a graffiti writer first. And that was what graffiti writers did in that time in New York, is you got the crown. If you got the most walls, or if you got the most trains, or if you did the biggest, or you did something, you earned your crown, you know? And
do you mean other top guys in New York City were making a crown if they had deserved?
It was part of the culture.
Really?
That's what, right. So he did it not realizing that it was going to be like a logo. It wasn't like that for him. For him, it was his nature. This is what the culture is. I'm just participating in this culture that I grew up with, that's evolving around me, that I'm a part of. And if you look at like Henry Chalfant or Martha Cooper, they're like probably the two most prolific photographers of the street art movement in the 80s. And if you look at their books or any of that, you'll see how many crowns you actually see when you're looking at all that street art going, oh shit, there's another one. Oh, so-and-so did that too. Oh my God. You know, like it was part of the culture. So, but the thing is now for Basquiat, it transcended that because of him. Then it became almost like a logo without trying to be a logo. You know, it's not the Nike swoosh. It's still part of the movement, but some people are gonna, you know, unavoidably look at those things and just, it's like an iconography at that point.
Sure.
Like the little Nirvana, you know, dead eye, smiley face thing. It's like that, you know, but the thing is that you still have the other part who understand the culture, who aren't just wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. they're connecting to the music. They're connecting to his art. You know, they're not just, you know, wearing a pair of Basquiat high tops. They're connecting to the art because he transcended.
Yeah.
He took something and took it to the next level.
Yeah. So going back to the magazine, and we were talking about Andy Warhol. Does he have anything to do with the title of your magazine?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. To me, there was like, okay, keep in mind also, because you're like, you launched that right in the middle of COVID, which is true, but it's not the whole truth, right? I also launched a magazine in the middle of a wave of civil rights movement.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah,
in the wake
Oh,
of,
yeah.
you know what I mean? In the wake of George Floyd and countless others, you know, like it was a very prevalent thing. And, you know, our president, you know, he's like, you didn't ever see that Cans of Soup video of Trump?
Kansas Soup.
The very first issue of Soup Can Magazine, I have a letter from the editor, and it's like about Donald Trump going, cans of soup, they're made perfect. You never heard?
No, what is this, dude?
He's like, these protesters, they're so innocent, right? They're so innocent. They throw cans of soup. They don't throw bricks now. They throw cans of soup. So when they stop, they just say, this is soup for my family. They're so innocent. Soup for my family. They don't carry a brick because they can't throw a brick. A brick's too heavy. But a can of soup, it's made perfect.
It's good for a grip, right?
He's like, and then they throw them at our cops. And he just cements that us versus them mentality. It's like throwing red meat to his base, you know? And he also gave that movement another, like, just log on the fire. Because they're like, well, it's actually not illegal for me to have a bag of soup. That's not illegal. But if I have to defend myself against police brutality, which the entire planet was protesting, you know, 3 million people in Paris were protesting police brutality in America. Okay. Well, then I happen to have my groceries here. It's nothing illegal about that.
Yeah,
you know, like
just carrying a lot of soup.
So that, plus I was like, oh, this is great. It's like ties into like the whole Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame thing. Because also part of when I was like sitting here thinking about it was I don't ever see this magazine connecting with a famous artist. It's not the spirit. The spirit is to find someone who's not famous and make them famous. You know, you're famous for 15 minutes because you're in Soup Can Magazine. That's the whole point of it, you know? So it did have a little bit to do. It was just it came to me and hit me, and I was like, oh, it's this. It was just the moment in time. And I was like, this just makes too much sense. And I started saying it more, and I was like, it's so weird that it works. You know, it's not trying to sound like a magazine. It's not like, 'cause I remember Amanda and I were joking one day because we went out to the diner. And we did I don't know, some festival. It wasn't yours because we were like in North Jersey or something. But we had our lanyards, the Soup Can Magazine, and we went to this diner. It was a great experience. And I was sitting there. I was like, you know, I wonder sometimes when we walk in and we're still wearing these and we forget to take them off, if people think that we're like a food magazine or something because it's called Soup Can Magazine, and they think we're like they're like polish the silverware, Soup Can Magazine is it? Like I was like, I can't. She was like, she was like, I wonder if they think that. It was funny.
Judging our Salisbury steak.
I swear.
Dude, that's a great technique for making sure your food is good. Yeah.
If you think about it, yeah, just any food magazine, just make up another bullshit lanyard, put it on, just walk into any restaurant.
Brilliant.
A rack of lanyards.
For restaurants.
Yeah. Which one did I wear yesterday? You got like
yeah.
every magazine. That's really funny.
That's brilliant, man. So, what out of all the time you've been doing it, I guess it's going on 3 years now. Do you have something about it you're really proud of? Have you made some artists very happy? Have you gotten any people out there into the world,
Bro,
connecting with people?
So Amanda tells me all the time that her the thing that keeps her going with Soup Can is when she sees someone look at their art in print for the first time, or when she sees someone who, you know, got published in the magazine, they put a poem out, and then like we have the event, and we're like, okay, and we present to you, you know, our next poet, and then they go up there for the first time, and they're like, this is it, like it's a small thing in the grand scheme of things for everybody who's at the event, but for that person it's like, no, the game done changed. What you were doing got validated a little bit more by someone who wasn't like you or in your family or something.
For sure.
I hadn't heard from him in about 1 year, and I just randomly got these text messages from him.
Oh my God.
Photos
Quentin sent you pictures of himself in Soup Can magazine.
Yep, the cover.
He was so happy.
He's thrilled.
Well, you know how that happened was that Quentin L. Green is a very prolific artist. He has a lot of work. He has a lot of work, and there's no real like the quality is so consistent, and the voice is so consistent just throughout. Like, and he we were in the Perkins Center. Have you been there?
Yeah, sure.
It's cool.
A long time ago, but yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like they like
space.
repurposed an old building and made it into an art space. It's awesome. And we were there, and I was looking at the art, and I'm like, we actually went for they have an open mic night once a month or something like that, and Amanda and I were like, let's go do this. I think actually might have been her idea actually. Yeah, it was her idea because it's not usually, she's not the one who goes, let's go to an open mic night. She's like, can we just stay home? Can you just calm down? And like, you're doing too much. And I need that. But this one night she was like, there's an open mic night at the Perkins Center. It's an art center. We can check that out. I was like, okay,
really?
I'm not going to shoot that down.
Yeah.
So we went, and he was hanging in the gallery. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, and then we just struck up a conversation with one of the head coordinators over there. I regrettably, I forget his name right now. He was such a cool dude. And he was like, oh, this is Quentin Green. And we reached, I was like, I want to publish this guy. This guy's awesome, And it's exactly the kind of work that I would like to publish and don't often get to. Like,
I mean, how many people have a story and
I
have
didn't
the
know
work
that yet.
to back it up?
You know what I'm saying? I didn't
okay.
know that yet. I just saw the work, and it was just speaking for itself at that point. When we reached out to him that night, he immediately started messaging us back. We sent him a DM on Instagram, and we went to the diner. We were getting something to eat. We were talking about the space. We thought it was cool, the art, and he's like messaging us, and then he stopped messaging us and just started sending us voice memos. So we're in the diner, and we're like, we're not listening to these right now. I'm not like playing all these in the diner. We'll go out in the car. She just opens up the phone. We start playing them on the ride home. And he's just going on and on about that horrific fire that happened to him and his wife. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy, what? I was like, wait, I'm so confused. He was talking about how he lost work in the fire. It just so happened, if I remember correctly, it just so happened that he usually is in a gallery space. Like right now, he's at the Union Market.
Yeah.
But he at that time was in 2.
He was in. He was doing a lot of stuff at Studio 67 in Medford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's now a curator there.
Right. Yeah.
So he happened to have the bulk of his work outside the house, which was not typical. He usually would have a gallery showing, and at that time he had multiple. So miraculously, it happened when most of his work wasn't in his house, which is great. But he still lost his house. Still lost his space.
Yeah.
And then he still lost some of his work.
Yeah.
And it was just like I think part of what happened was that there was people at the Perkins Center and us kind of like gravitated towards him around the same time. And he was so grateful for the support he was getting from the community because they were auctioning off paintings of his and giving him the money. Like it was just so much support.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the cool moments from like since we started Soup Can.
That's incredible. I gotta say, first of all, if anyone after hearing us go on and on about Quentin, I'm gonna have to send this episode to Quentin. But I did about 100 episodes of a show called The Pillars of Hamilton. I spoke to people from all different walks of life, but man, that was an interview that hit me so hard. If you want an interview to hear that will make you believe in second chances, about real heart and determination and kindness and love, I mean, that is the guy to listen to. When we go, once a year we do Springfest here where we're raising money for diabetes, for diabetes research. And well, we ask Don, we ask Quentin for art. You know what he does every time? He gives us art, but then he sees my kids. He's like, come on in here. And he has so much art in this room. He's just like, he'll find something with a superhero on it. I want you to have this.
Oh, come on.
It's in my kids' room right now, man. He just starts giving it to my kids. Just for the love of the game, I'm like, dude, this is too much. Thank you, man.
But see, that's another thing too. So like doing Soup Can, we aren't on the mission to look for the best poet and the best painter or the best photographer. That's not the mission. The mission is to find the best people who are writing poetry, making paintings and art and stuff. That's the mission. What are you doing with this? There's so many people who are just, it's wild too, because when the starving artist adage, right? That cliche, it's really only the true artists who are starving. Artists who like just are shitty people will make so much money. They'll make as much money as you could print.
Just playing the game.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Do you think it's hard to just like do a portrait of Jimi Hendrix?
I find it.
You're gonna sell it.
Yeah.
Like it's
sure.
In every mall. And
I know. I do a lot of like pop art stuff at well, I'm gonna come closer to the mic.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like pop art stuff, mostly because like I drew the pop art stuff that I like to, and the people gravitate to it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I find it. I don't know. It's I see a lot of people online who are selling their method of becoming rich as an artist, and yet I never see their art.
What?
Like they're always like,
It's like what?
This is a world I do not know about.
Come to me for advice. Let me tell you how you're going to make 6 figures next year with your art, and I'm going to tell you the way to do it. And never see any of their art.
It's like the motivational speaker who's never really done anything with their life.
But be a motivational speaker.
Just being a good salesperson, And I think part of being a successful artist financially is partially being able to tell your story, And
I'm glad that you made that stipulation, by the way, just now.
It's
adding the financially on the end of it is important.
Yeah, because it is.
Caveat.
There's lots of like really, really talented artists, and we had a little bit of a conversation in the last podcast with Allison, who's a life coach, and we're talking about like how artists sometimes get in their own way for achieving financial success,
bro. Relatable content. Go on.
It's like I'm just gonna play the episode for you now. So like I find it. There's so many people that I know who like imposter syndrome is a big thing.
Sure.
It's like, well, if only I did this. Like even. So I had a conversation with an artist a couple of months ago over at it was at the Noise Museum. He had an exhibit there, and for a long time I was doing my robot paintings.
Yeah.
And I was just saving them. I was like, once I get to 20, then maybe I'll start selling them. And I've gotten 13 of them so far. But I don't know, I'm in a different place than I was when I was creating them. So the ideas that were behind them originally are no longer there. But I still had 13 paintings. And now I have 12 paintings. Because after that conversation, it was Gary Irby, who's a trompe-l'oeil surrealist artist from North Jersey.
Okay.
And he's like, just sell them. What good are they? And I'm like, oh, that's a fair point. They're just hanging in my house, right?
Well, right.
Like how
you're
are people
doing the same thing we were talking about with the Rothko, but with your own shit.
But with my own shit. Yeah.
Just keeping them, like who's seeing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point of creating something if you're not sharing it with the world?
There's two. That's not rhetorical, that question.
No.
I mean, like, I think that there could be a point to creating something and not share it with the world.
Yeah, but I think there's I think I agree with you to a certain point. But when you're doing stuff, like in the case of those robots that were meant to be shared, to like, they're meant so that.
You're right. There's a story
can,
and a cohesive voice throughout that.
People can find a part of themselves in some of these paintings.
Absolutely.
Right? So, like, me keeping them, just as images, like, online, like, I feel like I have this guy, working at the bike shop, right? So this guy, his wife is an artist as well in the Camden area, and she and I were in this Heart of South Jersey show at Camden County College, and she just loved my paintings. And I think it was the day after I had this conversation with Gary, I walk into work and he's there. He's like, "Hey, my wife was just wondering if you were ever planning on selling one of your paintings." I was like, "As a matter of fact, I am."
Starting today.
Does she want 20 or 14?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it was really cool to be able to like not only did I sell one of the pieces, right? And I sold it to somebody that I knew was going to love it the way that I loved it. Or at least in their own way, but love it equally.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of, that's part of that what's important to me. Like, I don't want it to go to somebody who's going to throw it into a closet.
Bro, there's something to be said for that, absolutely. That connection. That's what the expression is, right? 'Cause it's really only expression if you express it to someone. Like you're getting it out and it's being received.
Right.
That's how I think expression takes place. It's like a giving and
It's a
receiving.
sharing, yeah.
I think that otherwise it's screaming into the void, and that can be therapeutic on its own. There's people who I've written poems and burned them.
Really?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just to get it out of myself.
Stuff that you're happy with, that you have no issues?
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if it was good shit. It was. I
had to
needed
get
to
it
write
out?
that down, and then I just torched it, just so it was out of my head, because I can't squeeze any more shit into the storage closet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to get
sure.
rid of it. And some of it is it's a yard sale, some of it is getting donated, and some of it's getting thrown in the trash. And that's the way a lot of stuff is in my head. And what you're talking about though, you're like, well, when I get to 20, I'll start selling them. But if you only had 13 in you, those other 7 are going to be shit.
For sure.
Because you're not doing it from the same spirit that
Right.
was coming from a place of real emotion and real thought and that mental state. You'd be at that point just manufacturing.
Doing it
Yeah.
because you have to.
Yeah, and that's
You'd be doing it for the money.
Right.
Before, so that means it's a wash. Nothing about that series is like that.
no, and to your point, it's like I constantly would get suggestions like, you know what this robot should do, right?
Of course, there's no end to it.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow,
People really do that.
yeah, I'm like, you clearly don't understand anything that I'm putting out there.
Well, you know what, too? It's like, at what point, to what end is that,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, you start taking commissions. Where do you want this robot to be? Fucking in supermarket shopping?
Yeah,
Do you want him to be in Barnes and Noble?
Yeah.
With Jimi
Do
Hendrix.
you want the robot holding a Starbucks and you sell it to a magazine and they use that and there's their
Right.
Starbucks ad and it's
Yeah.
art magazine? Like, there's no end to it.
Were these people who were saying this, were these other artists, or are these just general audience?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
I mean,
Really?
sometimes artists,
feel like
family
artists-
members, like patrons, like
I mean, I'm not. I don't create art like you, but I would know. I probably shouldn't say stuff like that.
Listen,
but they're trying. They're trying to be part of it. They love it.
it's innocent enough.
They love it.
Okay.
And they want. They're like, oh, I'd love to see it like this. Because it's something.
It's
It's
triggering the artist in them.
Right. It's like
Oh.
they're picturing
is a good
scenarios where they can connect with it. And I think that's awesome.
That is pretty cool when you put it that way.
Go make it.
But that's no bullshit, though.
Right. Like, just go. You have a story to tell. Tell your story.
Do you ever say that to them?
I do.
Yes.
I do. Of course I do.
Go make it.
I'm like, that sounds great. You know, like, it's okay.
It.
Go make it. You want to paint? Somebody asked me, is it okay if I paint robots? I'm like, of course it is. I don't own the license to robots. Like,
you should have lied.
Yeah,
it is.
I'll
You could have
sue
made
you.
You could have made all your money just licensing out robots. Who the hell? What the fuck would have known?
if you sign this agreement with me, you can have as many
And then you
robots
do your
as you
own little
want.
bullshit.
Right.
I like you, so I'll cut you a
Here's
deal.
how you make 6 figures selling the license to robots.
Yeah, you click this link.
Beep, boop, beep.
So, like,
Can I tell you something that
Sure.
reminded me of?
sure.
More than a few years ago, actually. This is almost 20 years ago. I had the privilege of recording with Lisa Ratner, who had worked, among others, she worked with Barbra Streisand. And I was working with her on some music.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked with all kinds of genres and stuff like that. You know, I walked in. She's one of those people who, like, her basement studio, she had the plaques on the wall.
Sure.
You know? So I had this song that I was working on, and she's like, listen, she stopped me and she's like, this part in the third verse needs to be rewritten. I was like, well, what? Like, I was a shithead. I'm like, don't tell me how to make my art. I was more than a little.
In your head or verbally, you just let her?
No. We kind of hashed it out a little bit. Resistant to her
sure.
suggestions, but she was like, "You either have to make this more generic so people connect with it." I was talking about some street by my house when I was a kid growing up, right? Mm-hmm. She's like, "You need to make it more generic, like the street by my house, or you need to say this is Bayberry Avenue in Bricktown, New Jersey, a mile from the water, and be very, very specific." Mm-hmm. I was like, "That makes no sense." She's like, "It does." Because if you're very generic, anyone can just superimpose their life over it.
For sure.
And if it's very, very specific, the emotion of that, like, intimacy with that spot, people will then go to their spot. They won't think of your spot. They'll think of their spot that makes them feel the way that moment feels for you. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're in the middle. You're not doing either one of those things. I was like, shit. And then I just, like, sat there. We just, like, took a break, and I was like, I'm gonna lean into it. I'm not gonna erase. I'm gonna write more. Mm-hmm. And she was right. And it was like one of those things where it became like very like this childhood anecdote in the song that works to the overall point of the song. The whole song's not about that. It's just a part in the song. But she was right in saying, like, if you go to that place mentally and emotionally, people will follow you, even if it doesn't look like that place for them.
For sure.
Theirs could be the dock by their house or this one building in the city where they grew up. Like, it's going to be different for everybody, but they'll all go to that spot because the emotion is there. Mm-hmm. You know? So someone telling you should paint this robot like this, it's like, it's not going to work like that because I wasn't there emotionally and mentally. Yeah. But what your painting is doing is it's making them go there to that place on their own. Right. And that's why it's valid when he says, you go paint it. And it's fine to say that. Yeah. Because you're already there. I'm not there. You're in your spot in your head and in your, like, emotional state. I'm not there. You are. You have to paint that.
You know, it's this thing that we go through that art is everywhere, and we're trying to make things more accessible for the community out there, and trying to get people to understand that it doesn't have to be polished to be good. You know, when it's real, when you can emotionally connect with somebody over your drawing, whether it's a stick figure or a finished painting, that's when you start to find your audience. That's when you connect with a community outside of your circle.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's like that with most types of art, right?
For sure.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
I'm thinking about, like, my upcoming match in wrestling. I'm like the oldest guy in the locker room at this point. I'm not doing all the backflips everyone else is doing, but I know that with my experience and who I am, like, I know how to tell a story to connect with that audience, to make them feel like I'm going to be facing Everest, who's 7 feet tall and 350 pounds. I know how to make myself look like the guy who, like, he might pull it off. He might pull off getting your ass beat, but never down and out. He might have the heart to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to win or lose. I'll find out when I get there. But I'm going to make those people believe I have a chance. And without all the backflips and stuff other people think that are so important nowadays. It's not about that. It's about connecting like Hulk Hogan did in The Rock and, you know, the best of the best, you know, the emotion.
Bro, what you're talking about is performance art.
Yeah. That's which you're
it
very
is.
familiar with, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You bring a lot of, I think we have a similar thing going where you have a lot of creativity and a lot of, you got a lot of charisma with everything you, at least everything I've seen you do.
Thank you.
Would you agree to that? With that, Don?
He doesn't think I'm charismatic.
No, if he's not charismatic, dude.
He's all right.
I mean, no one could be.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said. You piece of shit.
At least it's recorded. At least it's recorded.
That's right.
You can play it over and over again on the ride home.
What do you think of his? I don't know if you call it spoken word, you call it poetry. If that's the same thing,
Well,
I'm new to this.
So I just wrote about how much like his stuff connects with me. Like, so
I
one
really
of the,
appreciate that, by the way.
I would feel remiss if I didn't tell you like how much, because the first time I heard that, I think might have been at either the first poetry jam or maybe at Smithville Art Walk, like when we first met. But I had the opportunity to have camera in hand recording stuff for the Arts and Music Festival, and he said he has this poem about. It starts off about, you know, holding a little sack of flour with a smile on it, and like it goes to this point about, you know, remembering the last time your parents picked you up, and like anytime my daughter asks, like, I don't care how much I'm hurting or how much I'm tired, I'll pick her up and I'll carry her to the car, I'll carry her up to bed, and I can't remember the last time my parents picked me up.
No.
You know, I can't remember the last time I picked my boys up.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Flip the script, because they don't remember the last time they picked you up either.
Right.
You don't write it down. You don't keep track of it.
No, and
it's just a moment that like you just don't have anymore.
It's like when the thing that I kind of equated to is just like, so this is gonna maybe go outside and probably get a little personal, but we're here to get personal. Nobody's listening, right? So
you told me this had a big following.
Got 5 people. That's
yeah, we're 3 of them. So
our moms.
So growing up with my dad, and then my dad passed away when I was 17, right? It wasn't one of those. He wasn't one of those guys that said, "I love you" all the time, right?
Relatable.
You know, and I know he was there. I know he loved me. I know he was there for so many things and was a part of it. But, you know, connecting emotionally in a way that I wanted to be connected with wasn't his bag, really. And I remember, like, the night that he passed away, like, we told each other that I love you, you know. And I was telling you the other day about, you know, kind of that best conversation I ever had with my dad was the day that he died.
Get out of here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a wild story,
for
man.
sure.
It's
but like I made it a point when I, you know, started to have kids that they would always know that I love them. Like,
man.
Every time I get off the phone with my kids, it's always I love you. Every time before bed, I love you. That's it. You know, like, I don't want there to ever be a doubt how special they are to me. So it's poems like that, you know, like, take me back to that place and remind me to appreciate the people in my life, the impact that they have on me, as well as letting them know how much they're appreciated. So I don't know if that's, you know, part and parcel for what you were going for with that that poem.
Well, you know what's weird about it is that like my father, when he heard that poem, he's like, "How did you?" He didn't understand how I thought like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, he's like, it's pretty wild how you think about these things. You know, when you don't even have kids. It's like you don't even know. Like, how do you know what that's like? How do you even know? I was like, this is what I'm thinking about. You know, like it's only one example of who knows how many times you do something for the last time in your life and you don't know it.
Sure.
You know, like you don't know, like, especially you wake up in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know that also reminds me of the day before. So I talked to my pops. He passed the night after I was over there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I always give Amanda so much credit because it was a Monday. He passed on a Tuesday. And I don't know, what the hell. It was September 21st. Or September 20th. I don't know. She was like, you know what? We should go barbecue at your parents' house tonight. We have some food. Let's go bring it over there and just barbecue with them because it was so gorgeous. I was like, cool. You don't have to say shit twice to my mom. Like, I'm saying I'm bringing food to your house to my mom. She will never say no to that. She's like, yeah, you're coming over for a barbecue, right? Exactly. Was that not the plan? Yeah, we're doing. So we go over there. We hung out, barbecuing. My father was famous for being one of those guys like, they don't make good movies anymore. They don't make good music anymore. They don't make any good music. Nobody makes good music anymore. You know. So I made this playlist for him of songs that were made between 2010 and 2020. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, here's some good shit that I think you'll like. And I made him, he was always on YouTube, so I made him a bunch of YouTube playlist. Mm-hmm. So the day before I was over there and I was like, did you listen to that place? Like, yeah, I listened to it. I'm like, well, did you like songs? And he's like, yeah, I like some of the songs. I'm like, well, which ones didn't you like? He's like, why? I'm like, because I'll take some off and put ones on more that you like. I can change it. He's like, I don't know all the names. So I'm like, all right, well, can you just look at it and text me? He's like, all right, I'll text you. And it was like, and then I was like, all right, well, whatever. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then we said goodnight and left.
Sure.
And then he passed away. That was the last time I talked to him. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I like listen to the playlist and I try and figure out which songs he liked and which ones he didn't like. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, he didn't like this one. Yeah. I don't know why, but some of them I'm like, I think this is the one. Yeah. He liked this one.
Does that change?
And I'll never
sometimes?
know. I'll never know.
Does it change depending on what mood you're in to whether the songs that he liked or didn't like? It's always the same.
So far, it has not.
Okay.
So far, the ones I decide that he probably didn't like, I haven't gone the other way on. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I'm like, yeah, he definitely was into this one, I haven't changed my mind back. Mm-hmm. But there's all the rest of the ones on there is just like this forever ambiguity that I'll have. Like, who knows?
Yeah,
I'll never know. You know, and that was tough too because you got to make peace with that. Mm-hmm. You know,
for sure,
you have to.
Yeah,
but it's also part of it is like because he was like, I know that he listened to it. You know, he wasn't like that. He wouldn't say, he would be like, I didn't listen to it yet. He would be honest. You know,
for sure.
But he also would 100% not remember the titles of the songs, and he wouldn't remember. Mm-hmm. So, but it's also like just one of those things where like I instinctively am like, oh, I want to connect with you through music. If I know you like music, that's how I want to connect with you. Mm-hmm. If this person likes movies, I want to connect with you through that. That's what art does. That's what music does. All that stuff is like that will bring people together. That's what's going to connect people. Yeah, you know, and that's that's another reason why I think like Soup Can. You know, it does what it does, and we have all these events. And we do all this stuff.
I mean, that's some of the things I wanted to talk to you too. Is like about the events that you do, because like you're building like this like amazing community.
Soup Can has its own events.
We do pop-up events. Yeah. We do pop-up events. We do them in like we've done record stores, cafes, barbershops, all kinds of shit.
Barbershops,
bro. We had a barbershop cipher that was good. We had like spoken word poets and hip hop artists in a barbershop.
That's so cool.
And the barbershop, the dude who owns it, his name is Shay. It's up in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And he makes beats. And he used to produce beats for a bunch of like these old school New Jersey rappers. Mm. And he does graffiti. And now he's like owns his own barbershop and does like shape ups and fades and shit like that. But if you go in his shop, there's like skate decks with graffiti on them. He's got graffiti books. He's got little cans here and there. So it wasn't just like we were in a barbershop. We were in like the barbershop to have like a hip hop spoken word.
Hair cuttery.
Oh, it wasn't no haircut. This ain't no middle of the mall shit. This ain't no middle of the mall shit.
Oh, that must have been such a good time.
That was awesome. But he's like one of those people who appreciates it. He knows who to text, bring them out, you know. And that's what. So we do pop-up events. We do pop-up stuff like that.
Yeah.
All the time.
So we should start wrapping it up. Like, what events are coming up? If we end up getting listeners, which we fully plan on doing, where could they see your work? Where can they find your magazine?
So let me tell you, the thing that's happening this summer is a lot of people don't know about the North to Shore Festival yet, but it is a festival that's sponsored by NJ Pack and Prudential. It's Newark, Asbury Park, Atlantic City, 3 weeks of June, just festival. Just each city is getting stages, headliners. They got big headliners. Like last year, they got Santana and Halsey. This year, Matchbox 20 is one of them, and Gary Clark Jr. I know B-52s are playing.
Really? They're still at it?
Dude, doing reunion. They're killing it.
Yeah. We saw a cover of it just... you
yeah,
done too?
Yeah. That was so fun.
Gloss. They were fun.
Yeah, they were fun.
And what they're doing, which is what I think is going to set this festival apart, is they're giving out micro grants. So they're giving out grants to individual performers and to small organizations and small businesses to put on events as part of the bigger festival. And Soup Can got a grant last year, and when we did the event, it was awesome. But they sent out that the postmortem email, and it was like, we encourage you to apply again next year. They're like, we really want to build this up. So this was the second year. We applied again and we got a grant again. And this year we're doing on June 23rd in Atlantic City, we're doing a huge food drive concert. So it's going to be hip hop, spoken word, like a block party style, outside in a parking lot, outside Sister Jean's kitchen. And they are feeding hundreds of people a week at Sister Jean's. And they have this garden. It's a public garden. They're growing food. They're teaching kids how to grow food and stuff like that. It's wild. And we want to try and feed like 500 people. Wow. So we're going to have to raise about 600 pounds of food to do that. So that's the jam happening this summer.
If anyone wants to help out with that, where would they?
Everyone can show up. People can bring food. We need a couple volunteers probably to help. There's going to be, we're posting information on our website on soupcanmagazine.com and on social media. And people can just reach out. There's no way there's too many people involved in something like this because Atlantic City has been designated a food desert. And that means not enough of the population of that city has access to fresh produce, fresh foods, and healthy options. So this is what their mission is, to try and combat that. And Soup Can wants to basically throw one of our pop-up events right literally in their backyard and throw a park jam and let's get people out, and that's the mission.
Don, sounds like something we might have to go check out.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Chris, dude, this went deep. This went deeper than I was expecting. This was fun.
I think we kind of knew that.
Yeah.
This is how he and I talk all the time.
You guys always get deep like that, huh?
Yeah,
you didn't prepare me, brother.
Well,
we're sensitive guys, man. Yeah. You're a sensitive guy.
A little bit, yeah. I almost teared up a little during all that.
No, this is
thinking about my dad.
A super joy. Yeah.
Was your dad how long ago, if you don't mind me asking?
2021.
21, yeah. Mine was in July last year, so
I am sorry to hear.
And I was thinking as you were talking about the music, for whatever reason, it is art that we connected on. We were very different. He owned a dentist practice. He was very professional, not a very artistic guy, not a performer. But man, we would sit down and every now and then we'd find a band. And for whatever reason, on my last time with him, don't want to get choked up. Stay strong. We were just
okay, man.
we were rocking out to some Elvis, and ever since then,
Elvis
man,
Presley?
Elvis Presley, the king.
There you go.
And If I Can Dream has become one of my favorite songs of all time because of that, because we listened to it together and got so into it. You know?
Wow.
That's cool.
Good for you.
Yeah. Hey, how about a little To Our Dads?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even though you guys drink all your drink.
It's all right. It's the spirit.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to close the show,
Thank you guys
man?
so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
You were awesome. Thank
Ladies
you,
and
dude.
gentlemen, Chris Rockwell.
Yes, sir.